Trees are an important part of our urban infrastructure.
They provide our city with many ecological services,
including carbon capture, soil retention,
reducing runoff, providing us with shade, food and shelter for wildlife, and many more.
Hi, my name is Patton Scott.
I'm Morgan Grubbs with Trees Louisville.
Hi, my name's Jacqueline Eklund. I'm with Louisville Grows.
Our organizations have been working together to plant trees all over Louisville. Today, we're coming together to teach you how to properly plant a tree.
Before you get started, be sure to consider the site location, soil health, sunlight, and overhead obstructions. You need to make sure you are picking the right tree for the right place. Will your tree be too close to your house or the street when it's old? Why do you want to plant a native tree? Is this the right tree for my front yard?
And always call Kentucky 811 before you dig. It could save your life.
First, you will need a few tools to get started: a shovel, gloves, a soil knife, a tarp, and a bolt cutter. In Kentucky, we recommend planting between October and May.
In general, we plant 3 different types of trees: container, ball and burlap, and root trapper bags. The way you plant them is pretty similar, and it all starts with digging a hole. Let's begin.
The width of the planting hole should be a minimum of 2 times the size of your root ball.
Place your tarp and/or bucket next to the planting hole. Using a shovel, remove the sod from the hole in wedges and set it aside. And we'll use it later at the end.
Now we'll start with the digging, which is the first part of planting any tree.
Depth of the planting hole should be equal to the depth of the root ball, measured from
the root collar all the way down to the bottom.
But wait, what's a root collar?
I'm glad you asked, Patton.
This is where the trunk of the tree actually meets up with the roots. And so you'll notice it's where it really starts expanding and flaring out. The ideal shape of the hole should also be like a bowl or a teacup. It's really important that your root collar is always exposed. Planting a tree too deep can actually kill it. Jacqueline and Patton have set down a tarp, and that's really helpful so that you can maintain a clean planting space, because all the soil that you remove from the hole will eventually go back into the hole. To prep a container for tree planting, we begin by removing any ropes, ties, and stakes from the tree. Gently tip the tree over. Make sure you watch out for your partner there. Next, gently remove the container. You may need to push on the sides of the container to help loosen up the root ball. Roll, but never lift the container to remove the tree. Remove any excess soil from the root flare.
If the roots are matted, shave them off up to about 2 inches.
You'll notice with container trees, a lot of times there are roots that are circling around, known as girdling roots. Cut off and loosen any of that. Don't be afraid of potentially damaging the tree. Trees are quite hardy.
It's good to have all of this removed to give this tree the best chance for survival once it starts growing new roots.
Using your shovel, measure the depth from the bottom of the root collar to the bottom of the root ball and compare it to the depth of your planting hole. The hole is actually too deep right now. Add a removed soil as needed, breaking up some of that dirt because we want it in very small clumps. We don't want large air pockets in our hole until the root collar is level to the ground. Now that your hole has been prepped, you're going to gently roll the ball into the hole. Aim for the middle of the hole, never pull on the trunk itself.
Before backfilling, be sure to check the orientation of your tree. Make sure the dominant branches are parallel with the road or the sidewalk.
Look at the bottom 3 feet of the trunk.
Yeah, that looks good.
Young trees tend to have a natural bow in them, so you can't determine straightness by looking at the crown. The trees will straighten themselves as they grow.
Backfill the planting hole with soil from the tarp, filling 6 inches at a time, patting down between each 6 inches.
So that there aren't any air gaps for the roots to dry out.
When compacting the soil around the root ball, you always want to make sure you're on the outside of the root ball. With this extra soil we have, we're gonna create a berm, making a big moat or a donut around the hole. That way the water stays right at the root ball and doesn't go out to the side. If you have any sod left over, you'll want to flip it upside down. This will just help kill the grass
Apply mulch 1 to 4 inches deep across the diameter of the hole. The mulch on the outside of the berm should be the deepest, tapering to a depth of 1 inch over the root ball. Do not apply mulch at the base of the trunk. Leave 2-inch radius of space between trunk and mulch. For a balled and burlap tree, the process is a little different. Begin by removing any ropes or ties from the tree. For a balled and burlap tree, you will also have to remove nails that are embedded in the burlap. Next, open the burlap on the top and remove any excess soil to expose the root collar. Take your bolt cutters and cut off the cage at the bottom of the root ball. Safely discard any metal after it's removed. Next, make a circular cut in the burlap to expose the root ball.
Roll your prepped ball and burlap tree into the planting hole. Now that your tree is in the hole, cut off the remaining cage from the root ball. Make a series of vertical cuts into the burlap so that you can completely remove the burlap from the hole. You don't want anything remaining in the hole with your tree. Backfill your hole and create a berm just like you did with the container tree.
For a root trapper tree, the process is almost exactly the same as it was with a balled and burlap tree. You just don't have any nails or metal cages to deal with. Begin by cutting the bottom off of your root trapper tree. Then, roll your tree to your planting hole. You will then make a series of vertical cuts along the root trapper bag to free the bag from the root ball.
You're doing great.
Pull the root trapper bag away and start backfilling your tree.
Your newly planted tree has been through a lot of stress today and is no doubt thirsty. Watering should take place at the time of planting and continue for the next 3 years, May through October. Or if you're a Louisvillian, Derby through Halloween.
If it snows or rains more than 1 inch, you do not have to water your trees. Overwatering can damage the trees just as easily as underwatering. Test your soil's moisture levels by digging down about 2 inches. Your soil should feel moist and cool, but not overly damp. If you use a water bag, be sure to take the water bag off after the planting and watering season is over.
Our tree is planted. Here are some friendly reminders to make sure you've planted your tree correctly. The root collar is exposed and at soil level. All tree ties, bamboo stakes, and non-native materials are removed. Make sure to prune out any dead or broken limbs. There's a substantial berm around your tree and you have mulched your tree correctly. Now you know how to properly plant a tree. We would love to have you at one of our volunteer plantings. We need people like you who are passionate about trees to help us grow Louisville's urban tree canopy.
If you would like further information about tree maintenance, please visit the Urban Forestry website, Louisville Grow's website, or Trees Louisville's website.
We hope to see your happy trees planted around Louisville.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you learned a lot about planting trees.
Go trees!